Hi, I'm Debs Last and I'm one of the Spring Harvest artists. So I would this week have been at Minehead Week 1, painting in the big celebrations and obviously a big start and doing a workshop. But I'm in my studio at home instead. So what I thought I would like to do is a demo of how to paint a candle in a box, which you can see just behind me. I've been really impressed by the candles that people have been putting in their windows on Sunday night to show everyone around them in their neighbourhood that they're praying for them. And so I thought this would be a really good way perhaps to make something that you again could put in your window to symbolise the fact that you are praying for your locality and obviously the world. So I'm going to show you how to do this. It's an acrylic painting and it's on a bit of cardboard. So I've primed the cardboard with ordinary emulsion, stuff that you'll have perhaps at home, and it doesn't have to be white. If the only colour you've got is magnolia or yellow or any colour really, if it's emulsion it'll be fine to prime a bit of cardboard. And then I'm drawing and then painting with acrylic. Obviously you could do this in any kind of material you like. Just I'm showing you an acrylic, but you can get your biros out, and let's see them. Let's have them posted onto the Facebook page or pages or the comments below this video. It'd be lovely to see what you've done. Okay, I'm going to change camera angle so that you can see what I'm working on. Cool. So this is my white bit of board. You can see it's just a bit of cardboard. It's a bit tatty on. I've discovered that cardboard has a wrinkly side and a smooth side, and you might want to just work on the smoother side. It's a bit frustrating if it's too wrinkly. Hopefully you can see the candle. I put it in a box and I've put something on top just to sort of stop light coming in so that I would get some reflections on the back corner of the box. I suppose it's making it look like it's in a corner of a room. Now it would be tempting to put the candle right in the centre, but actually it will look much more interesting if you slightly shift it to one side. So I'm going to shift it over to this side. I'm going to draw in the corner, and then I'm going to think about the shape of the glass. Obviously making it difficult for myself and giving myself a nice ellipse just to start off with straight away, but that's okay. Don't overdraw that ellipse if you're finding it difficult. Just don't worry about it too much. And the bit of hessian that I've got on here sort of sticks out wider than the glass itself, so I want to just think about that. And the back edges of that, this size here is smaller than the front. It helps it to look like it's going around the back of the glass. And then there's the glass at the bottom. And there's some wonderful things. You can hear strange noises. It's my dog Archie. I think he's I don't know, he's complaining about something. Just want to make that slightly smaller. Now I can see the hessian in the back a little bit, and then it comes round and sort of tucks in here. So one of the things that happens with glass is that it does kind of interesting things. It's obviously it's refraction, isn't it? Bending and doing odd shapes. So do kind of see if you can find some of those. There's the candle in the back there. So lots of elliptical shapes to draw here. I'm just going to mark out for myself where the candle is, the flame. And brilliantly, I've got a little bit of candle reflecting, a second sort of reflection, if you like, in the back there. And then this lovely shimmery shape just here. And I want to really sort of mark those in so I think about them. Now, the reason I chose this candle holder was because it had the hessian around the middle, and it gives me then a really nice sort of curvy shape. And I'm not going to worry about the sort of shape of the box. I'm just going to draw it as if it is a corner of a room. I'm just going to let that come right off the edge. And I want to just think about these lovely shapes that are being made. Sort of by this bit of hessian. It just looks really lovely, I think. And then I've got sort of a shadowy shape there. And then the rim of the glass is making this lovely shadow up here, which kind of does this thing, like that. And if I can sort of do those as single sort of strokes and just let them tuck off, don't really need to finish them off. And so in a way, that's as much drawing as I want to do. If I spend too long drawing, then it becomes really an unhappy thing to do, to try and paint it, because you're spoiling your drawing, if you like. It's much better to have a quick drawing. Now I'm working with acrylics. I'll just show you my acrylic palette all set up nice and messy. These are, and I tend to set it up in a kind of tonal way. So you have the white at one end and my darker colours at the end. Now, in spite of there being lots of dark here, I'm not going to use black. So I've got a very dark blue called Indigo, and I've got a burnt umber. And then I've got my bright colours down the bottom. Obviously hoping that the white of the paper will sort of glow through to give me a nice glow. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to put all the sort of orangey lights in so you can see where they are. And so I'm mixing up, I'll just show you that, I'm just mixing up some red. And actually what you'll notice about this whole setup is that that yellow there, that really bright yellow, isn't going to be used all that much, because it's not really that kind of colour. It's much oranger than that. So I'm going to put in my brights. Quite a big brush. I want to do it with as few brush strokes as possible. So when I'm painting it, the paintings at the celebrations obviously are really big, and I work with enormous brushes, which I quite like. So this is quite a little brush compared to that, I guess, isn't it? I actually feel probably want this one. And I am kind of using them a bit watery here, just because I quite like what will happen, but even don't use them too waterily, because they are acrylics and need to be nice thick paints if they can. And this sort of is a first layer, so I'm kind of not stressing too much about how perfect it is. I'm just going to sort of rub that in. I want to get quite close to the edges because I don't want to have white gaps. It's going to be dark up there, so I'm just going to rub that. You can see if you get it too watery, that's kind of separating out a bit. That needed a little bit of gathering up there. Let's put that in. And they get quite red on those bits there. And it's kind of quite nice if you don't over mix your colours, or you kind of can mix them on the board itself, really. It's quite nice. And I can put sort of over glazes. Now I want to come into the candle a little bit. And there's some kind of bonkers shapes in there which I'm going to kind of think about. And I'm just going to put some cardboard box colour down here actually. And it's quite important to sort of set the tone of the painting by getting a lot of your paint down, because all the time you have got white showing that isn't supposed to be there. It sort of changes how you read the painting, if you like. Pick up a little bit of white and let's put in. So slightly change the white so that you can see it's not quite pure white in that candle. There's that glow of the orange. I want to show the gaps between the Hessian, so what's going on behind it. I'll paint the Hessian in on top and put the brightness of the Hessian there. What you'll notice is the brights are kind of showing. Oops, a little bit of that orange there. But they're not showing as very, very bright. And one of the things I want you to know and really kind of come away with from this little workshop, if you like, is that really the brights don't show until you've got the darks in. And I think that's just the most wonderful metaphor for the kind of time that we're in at the moment. So you can see those brights are there, but they don't feel very bright at all. They feel a bit they sort of feel a bit pasty, I guess, because they'll show once the dark goes in. And I suppose can't help thinking that's a bit like us. You know, we're around a lot, aren't we? But when this dark time comes, this is our chance to really shine. And you can see as soon as I start to put these dark colours in, just how everything else suddenly starts to seem really bright. And you can see I'm not over mixing my colours, I'm letting that kind of be quite interesting up there. Just get a bit of water. And it's quite nice to, on those edges that you want to sort of soften it into, get your fingers in there. Sometimes I'll pick up a rag, which I might just do there to bring that back, just to soften it. Builds up some nice textures. And I'll come back and put some more layers into that in a minute. But you can see suddenly those brights are a bit more meaningful. Let's put that in first time. And we have to have another go at it in a bit. And again, I quite like picking up the red. I've got a lovely red on my palette, which is kind of a dark red, I guess, which helps it to look quite purpley. And I quite like how that's making the darks appear. And I'm obviously really exaggerating that because it's not as strong maybe. It's quite nice to sort of push that a little bit further than and make that stronger. It probably would show up a lot more if I wasn't working in a studio that's in a quite bright room. The sun has been out a lot, hasn't it? So it's really showing a lot of light into the, it's really flooding a lot of light into the room. Just put, and I can scuff some colour over the top now. And my aim now is to kind of cover as much of this surface as I can, so that I've kind of got something to work on top of, I guess. Just need a tiny small brush to go in there. Like when we're painting in front of everybody at the celebrations in the evening, you kind of forget that everybody is there. Or hopefully I do. You just get on with it. Almost more obvious that you're here doing this. I'm thinking about you more. And it might be that you've kind of got all the stuff together and you can do this along with the video, or you might watch it and then shut the video off and just remember it, which is kind of cool as well. A bit dark in there. And I'm sort of leaving the edges of the glass at the moment. They're probably going a bit wonky because I'm standing sideways to it, so I just have to lift that up. Oh yeah, definitely going wonky, so I have to correct those in a minute. But I just want to get the basics down, and it's kind of, that's the lovely thing about acrylic that I really like, is that you can paint over and over and over it. It's wonderful to paint like the performance paintings in the evening celebrations, because you can rub things out and paint over the top. And, you know, sometimes you do stand back and go, oh my gosh, what have I done there? So it's quite nice with acrylic to be able to do that. And I'm just going to soften that so that it's almost, you can't see it. What have we got going on there? It just comes down a bit. And then this is dark as well. So I've kind of blocked out most of my colour now. And I hope you can see that now that all the dark is in there, how much brighter it is, how much these areas feel like they're alight and alive. And I just want to begin to think about some of the bright things that are going on in there. Let's put some candle colour in. Now, although you can paint acrylic wet next to wet, it's still a little bit It's a little bit hard to do. You still will pick up the colour if it is absolutely wet, so I'm just a little bit wanting to be a bit careful of that. Just want to find that nice shape of the reflection, which is rather lovely. I'm just going to put that in. Now I want to start to think about the glass. I'm going to use quite a small brush. What's quite nice is you can see just one or two little tiny almost blue bits. Let's pick up. So I'm just going to try and find the glassiness of that, but they're kind of still quite pale. There's some wonderful things going on in there, but I've got a really lovely sort of sky blue on my brush now to help show that. And this is where I can begin to think about correcting some things. So I'm just going to pick that up so I can see it and straighten it up. Excuse my head. So that needs to go like that. Hopefully a little bit better. And then I'm just going to think about as well the Hessian, because it's making different textures and it's quite nice to see how you can work with those. So on the front edge of the Hessian, you're seeing the light behind. So the Hessian itself appears quite dark. So for this bit, I can put that in. I'm going to use a tiny little brush and I'm going to put that in as actual, let's just come down this way straight. I'm going to put those in as straight lines. Now when they get closer to the back there, they're quite close together, and in the front they're further apart so you can see through them. So I'm putting in the straights first, and then I just let these ones get quite close together, and then I can wiggle the. And I'm not going to worry too much about making them absolutely go all the way around and be even, but it begins to sort of indicate the texture of the Hessian. And then on the back edge, because I'm seeing through to the black, I need to put the gaps in instead. So I'm just going to use this little brush to indicate the gaps. Oh, that slightly ran. I've got the edge of the glass is slightly in the way there, so kind of nice if they look vaguely even, and again they get closer together as they get nearer to the edge. I might soften that when it's a bit, so it's kind of just beginning to think about that texture. And what I want to do now is I want to sort of eliminate all the little bits of white gaps that are kind of appearing. So I'm just going to kind of use a bit of this yellow to do that. I don't want these little gaps. I want to feel the edge of the Hessian going off. So I've got a little bit of yellow in there. And obviously you need to think about now the rim, which is quite orangey and it's quite dark. So I'm just going to put that in. Oops. As an orange rim to start with, and I just kind of need that to dry off a little bit. I'm just going to blend some stuff in here. I just want to make sure there's no offending white bits that shouldn't be there, because they kind of make it look a bit odd. Just get a little bit of dark in there around the edge of the candle and the flame. Make that a bit orange, that edge. It's a nice colour. Let's come in here and use it to make some wiggly glass shapes. What I've just noticed is that that's slightly tucking in. That's why it's a bit wonky. I'm just going to turn that sideways. I just want to paint that edge in. Make sure the hessian is sticking out over the edge because it is wider than the and that's got quite wet, so there's a point where you can't particularly keep going. I just want to show you the dark because I've got one ready in true Blue Peter style. I just want to show you, once you put again the dark into this rim, these things start to jump out and come alive. But I also am going to need to put some real bright whites in. And it's not about doing a line all the way round. If you look at the edge of a glass, it's just doing different things on different areas. And actually that's quite blue, it's got that in there, a little bit of that blue. It's quite nice if you can mix it up a little bit. But I can't put the whites in on top of that now because it's so wet. Let's put a little bit of white into the candle. And so I kind of would keep working that one up until I've got everything kind of sorted. But that's so wet now I can't really do any more. I'm just going to put that there. Because true Blue Peter style, here's one I did earlier. It's a bit bluer, the one I did earlier, than this other one. It's got quite purple, that one, isn't it? So you can see, even just doing it half an hour apart, you do different things. And you can see that I've got the candle, but I haven't sort of been able to work up the lights yet. So I'm working with my tiny little brush and I'm just sharpening up those little reflections. They're quite orangey and kind of interesting. And they have sort of different things going on. It's kind of, and they also have a really white bit. So this, it's got a really white bit on the top edge, even though it's only a reflection. I can see that I need to do a little bit of black on the glass rim as well. Just need to do some orange bits on this now. Oh, that was so wet. Lovely thing about acrylic is I can just catch that, get that out of the way. I hadn't spotted that it was that wet. So a nice little orange shape in here. It begins to make a sort of hollow to make the flame, and you need the blackness of the wick. And when I did this, it obviously had more wax in it. It's now almost clear. That blue that I was using for the glass, I can just dot a little tiny bit of it on the edge of the candle. I'm going to gather that's too much water on there. But that tiny little blue, it just helps to sort of show. I mean, to say it's blue is a kind of, it's not really, but you know, it's just a little bit of something, of gas, I guess, between fumes. I'm just putting that in really carefully. And then on the very tip of the wick is a little bit of red, which will help it to sort of start to feel a bit alive. And I just need to make that a little bit yellow at the top of the candle flame, leaving a white bit in the middle. And obviously you're never going to get exactly the glow of a lit candle, but you can get pretty near. Well, there's some artists out there who were very into showing off how clever they were by doing things like that. I haven't put the hessian in on that one, on this one here, but I've shown you how to do that already. But you can see just here, to make that show, I need to get my, I'll keep picking it up with too much water. I have to have a rag here, just so you know, you need to dry it off. Cleaning my brush and then not using the rag. Just want to put in a dark there to make those bits of light really show. I'm doing that quite strongly with blue. I can come back into the bottom of this as well and wiggle around. And so it's about fiddling about with a little bit of detail, I guess, once you've got your candle going. Let's just put some nice strong highlights in there on that back edge. But it does need a little gap of time where it can dry and where you can get those in. Hopefully that has given you some ideas about how to do a candle in a box and how to perhaps put something up for your neighbours to see. Thanks so much for being with us, and yeah, looking up at you now, but thanks so much for being with me, and I hope you enjoyed that. Bye.